Well, welcome to the Weather and Challenging Anchorages seminar this evening. We'll move right along with the presentation. For those of you that are coming up the Queensland coast heading for Thursday Island, inside the reef, winds are predominantly from the east and southeast. Short, choppy waves and strong current flows are predominant going up the coast. If you're going up outside of the main reef, then be aware of the East Australian current. Tides are also problematic in places up the east coast of Queensland. Tides at Mackay, for example, 6 meters plus. Tides at Cairns, a little bit more realistic, 1.2 to 2.4, and very much the same up in the Torres Straits, 1.2 to 3.5. Up in the Torres, of course, very restricted waterways, so quite a bit of current going both east and west there. You need to time your passages through according to the tides. Incoming tide coming from west to east, outgoing tide from east to west can be upwards of 3.5 nautical knots per hour. Okay, looking at Thursday Island, if you are wanting to anchor there at Thursday Island, Horn Island is in fact to the east of Thursday Island and presents a much better anchorage. You'll be experiencing most likely 18 to 25 trades, which are east to northeast. And because of the topography, they'll be accelerated and also due to the time of year that we're going to be going out of here. So get yourself a nice, careful anchorage or a pleasant anchorage behind or beside Horn Island.
And remember that there are a lot of areas that are no anchoring areas of Horn Island and Thursday Island. So make sure you check the Horn Island, Thursday Island page on the web app, and that has a map of where the no anchoring areas are.
Also, if you're going across to Thursday Island to do your clearances, you can get the ferry across from Horn Island to Thursday Island. Much easier than going across and finding somewhere to leave your tenders for doing that. It's also a very good shop on both Thursday Island and on Horn Island.
And there's also a very good water taxi that can take you if you want it outside the ferry hours.
Weather on departure. Departure dates from TI between the 10th and 15th of July. We'll be giving fleet daily weather for departure and the passage, and that's all included within the rally fee. Weather on passage, usually strong easterlies out of TI into the Arafura Sea. There's also a lot of fishing vessels, particularly off Papua, that stretch down as far as the economic territorial waters of Australia. So best to stay within Australian economic waters for as far as possible, and I'll give you waypoints of those depending on the weather when you're actually underway to leave. So those are just some of the areas to be avoided. You'll notice that there's quite a number of active AIS signals within there. Those will be the larger vessels. There's quite likely to be a lot of smaller local vessels, perhaps longboats with a few people on board, plus also the occasional large floating raft. So keep your eyes open and keep an eye on your radar. Most of the rafts are going to be difficult to see, so keep an eye out for any flashing lights or cigarettes that you might be able to see as you pass them. By going a little bit further to the west along the dotted line, you're going to run into far fewer boats than taking the direct line to the Kai Islands. Weather in Indonesia. Indonesia has two seasons, the dry season from April to October and the wet season from November to March. With the wet season in November, you'll have what they call the northwest monsoon starting. So be careful of that because that has northwesterly winds. If you're wanting to get from Anchorage to Anchorage later in the season, those can be difficult to navigate. The dry season, predominantly easterlies and mainly light, so allow for lots of motoring. And when the winds do blow, they often blow strong. Land effect is also a problem with some of the squeeze zones between islands. You're also going to see accelerated current flows backwards and forwards through those between those islands. Wet season, northwest monsoon. Now, primary comms. Hopefully, you've all got Starlink with WhatsApp, Iridium Go or Exec, and with the Data Hub, we can get a lot more information from you. PredictWind have also just released their Data Hub Pro, which is something you might wish to look at. There's still plenty of time to get that set up before you leave Australia. So search the Data Hub Pro on the PredictWind site. Well worth the effort.
And just remember that you are required, as part of the rally terms and conditions, to place a position report once a day on your way once you leave before you get to Tual, and then sign off at Tual, either by email or WhatsApp.
Now, routing. Most of you will know by now that I run the weather and ocean tactics called My Weather, and that is a weather routing and Overwatch service that we run in separate to the rally. Uh, We've got lots of experience in the area. We've got lots of local knowledge in the area, and that's all part of the service as well. Look for somebody that's got sailing experience if you're looking for a meteorologist or a weather router. Actively weather routes in the region, which I do, and has a good track record, which I also do. Ocean Tactics for individual departure planning and routing. We're doing a super duper special for rally participants, which is $100 for the route to Tual. That's departure planning and also route routing. Now, I'll also introduce you to the Overwatch package, which is a comprehensive coverage while you're in country in Indonesia. So, US $20 a week, and you can call up and ask for a weather outlook, weather forecast, and assistance with getting from one departure point to the next arrival point. Also, where it's suitable to anchor and where it's not. Rally admin at sailtoindonesia.com for rally specific information.
Cool. So just let me know if you're interested in that, and we will talk more on it.
Challenging anchorages. There's a number of challenging anchorages in Indonesia, and one in particular is off Ambon, where we've seen a lot of the boats get into trouble because of very poor holding in a slushy mud bottom. One of the other problems with some of the anchorages that are adjacent to larger population centers is the rubbish in the water, and also things like sacks and other detritus that's on the bottom of the anchorages. So in an anchorage like that where you're having trouble getting holding, you can still use what we call the tandem anchor. So tandem anchor rig, you'll see there from the picture that is mounted ahead of your primary anchor. So grab a piece of 3 meters length of chain, uh, do a tandem anchor with an anchor that is not the same as your primary anchor. For example, if your primary anchor is a Rockna, then I'd recommend using either a Danforth or a Fortress anchor as your secondary tandem anchor. Put a 3 meter chain on it and a piece of rope between the shackle on the tandem anchor and about a meter up the chain in front of the primary anchor. That'll allow you to bring the primary anchor on board and have a rope to pull the secondary or the tandem anchor up and get it out of the water fast and easily. So rope and chain is something that you want to be careful of if you've got a limited amount of primary road. I prefer in the tropics around coral to use all chain rather than rope and chain. If you are going to use rope and chain, at least have a decent length, maybe 30 meters of chain before you change to rope. and buoy that so that it keeps the rope off the bottom of the anchorage.
Now, some of the types of anchoring situations you will have very sludgy, muddy bottoms, especially off the towns and river mouths. And detritus, as John said, is a big problem, especially off some of the main centres. You'll also find that many of the anchorages are quite deep, so you're going to be anchoring on ledges where your anchor will be set and then you'll be hanging off into deeper water. In some areas, you'll be on sand bottom in shallower areas and behind reef. If you are going to be up in Raja Ampat or areas such as the Komodo area, then there are opportunities for you to anchor and tie off to the shore. So make sure you have very long lots of rope for that and some chain to go around, especially in Raja Ampat, because some of the areas you're not tying off to trees, you're tying off to rocks on cliff faces. You will also find that the distances are quite big, so you will need to plan those as well. So all the information that we've talked about here is will be on the Rally app, and the recording will be up very soon. Now, our next webinar is a Q&A session, question and answer session. So please send through any questions that you have that may not have been answered in the app or that you are interested in before the 14th of June. And our next webinar, webinar 7, is on the 16th of June before the get together in Cairns. So thanks for joining us tonight. Nice quick session for everybody, and we will see you on the next webinar.
Thanks and goodbye. Now, how do I end there?